The shuttle landed on the diplomatic station with a soft hum. The station floated in space near a distant planet called Kepler 442b. Many alien species came through this station every day. They traded goods, shared knowledge, and tried to understand each other. But today, something different arrived. Her name was Yuna. She was a human woman from Earth, sent by her government to teach alien children about science. She was not very tall, only about 165 centimeters. She had warm brown eyes and long black hair that she kept in a simple ponytail. She carried a small bag with her teaching materials and wore a friendly smile on her face. The aliens who ran this station were called the Vrakari. They were very different from humans. Each Vrakari stood over 2 meters tall. Their skin was covered in gray scales that looked like armor. They had long claws that could come out from their fingers when they wanted. Their eyes glowed amber in the dark, like burning coals. On their home planet, they were the top hunters. Nothing could catch them, and nothing could escape them. Commander Talon was the leader of this station. He sat in his office with his second-in-command, a female Vrakari named Bora. Bora had many scars on her face and body from old battles. She was known for being tough and serious. Talon looked at his computer screen. It showed information about the new human teacher. He made a low rumbling sound in his throat. "Another human," Bora said. Her claws tapped against the desk. The last one did not stay long. What happened to him? Talon asked, though he already knew the answer. The cubs cornered him in the storage room. They did their hunting cry. He ran to his ship and never came back. Mara showed her teeth and what might have been a smile. Humans are soft creatures. They break easily. Talon nodded slowly. The cubs were young Vrakari children. On the Vrakari home world, children learn to hunt from a very young age. They practiced on small animals, then bigger ones. Here on the station, there was nothing to hunt. So the cubs practiced on their teachers instead. They never hurt anyone badly. That was against the rules. But they enjoyed scaring them. It was a game to them. How fast could they make a teacher scream? How quickly could they make one run away? The record was held by a teacher from a species called the Mindori. She had lasted only 2 hours before crying and hiding in her room for 3 days. "This human comes with good recommendations," Talon said, reading from the screen. "Her file says she has experience with difficult students." Bora made a sound that meant she did not believe it. "We shall see. I give her 1 week." Yuna walked through the station's hallways. Everything was big here. The doors, the chairs, the tables, all made for creatures much larger than her. She felt like a child in a world built for giants. But she did not feel scared. She felt excited that she had studied the Vrakari for many years back on Earth. She knew about their hunting traditions, their family structures, their history. She knew that they saw most other species as weak. She knew that their children were wild and hard to control. And she knew that every teacher before her had failed. Yuna smiled to herself. She liked challenges. The education wing of the station was in the east section. Yuna found her classroom without trouble. It was a large room with high ceilings. There were 12 desks arranged in a circle and a big display screen on the wall for teaching. Everything was clean and ready. She set up her materials and waited. Soon she heard them coming. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. Low growling sounds. The clicking of claws on the metal floor. The door opened, and 12 young Vrakari walked in. They were smaller than the adults, but still bigger than Yuna. The youngest was about 6 years old in human terms. The oldest was about 10. All of them had the same gray scales and glowing eyes as the grown-ups. All of them looked at Yuna like she was something interesting they had found. Something to play with. The largest cub was a male named Duri. He was 10 years old and the leader of this group. He walked to his desk slowly, never taking his eyes off the human. The other cubs watched him, waiting for his signal. Dury sat down. He leaned toward a smaller cub next to him and whispered, "Look at her. She is so small, so soft. I think we can make her scream before the first lesson ends." The smaller cub, a female named Hana, nodded eagerly. "What is the plan?" "First, we watch. We learn how she moves, how she talks. We find out what scares her." Dory's eyes glowed brighter. "Then we hunt." Near the door sat two cubs who looked exactly alike. They were twins named Jinu and Miru. They had already started planning. If they moved to block the door, the human would have nowhere to run. That always worked well. An older female named Soman sat in the back. She had been here longer than the others. She had seen 5 teachers come and go. She was already bored with this one. Yuna stood at the front of the room and smiled at them all. "Good morning," she said. Her voice was calm and warm. "My name is Yuna. I'm from a planet called Earth. I'm very happy to meet all of you." The cubs said nothing. They just stared at her with their glowing eyes. "I know that you have had many teachers before me," Yuna continued. "I know that you are very good at playing games." She paused and looked around the room. "I like games too." Dory tilted his head. There was something strange about this human. Most teachers were nervous on their first day. Their hands would shake. Their voices would tremble. They would avoid looking directly at the cubs, but this human looked right at them. She did not shake or tremble. She smiled like she meant it. "Today, I want to learn about you," Yuna said. "I have read many books about your species. The books can only teach so much. The best way to learn is to meet real people." She sat down on the edge of her desk, making herself even shorter. "So, who wants to tell me about their home planet?" Silence filled the room. The cubs looked at each other. This was not how things usually went. Teachers were supposed to be scared and try to control them. This one was just talking, like they were friends. Hannah raised her hand slowly. "What do you want to know?" Yuna's smile grew wider. "Everything," she said. "I want to know everything." The cubs did not know it yet, but things were about to change. This human was not like the others. She had come here to teach, but she had also come to learn. And she had no plans to run away. Dury watched her carefully. He would find her weakness. Everyone had a weakness. It was only a matter of time before he found hers, or so he thought. The news spread through the station like fire. "She laughed at us," Hana told the older cubs who had not been in the class. They were gathered in the recreation room again, but this time there were more of them. Cubs from other classes had come to hear the story. "We did the hunting cry, all of us together." And she just laughed. An older female named Soman shook her head slowly. "I was there. I saw it with my own eyes." She was not pretending. She really was not scared. The older cubs exchanged looks. This was strange news indeed. Humans were supposed to be weak and soft. Everyone knew this. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons of any kind. How could such a creature not fear the Rakari? "Then we try harder," said a large male from another class. "We show her what real fear feels like." Dory nodded, though something in his chest felt uncertain. "Tomorrow we begin again. And this time, we do not stop until she runs." What followed was a week that Yuna would remember for the rest of her life. On the second day, the cubs changed the lights in the classroom. They made them turn off suddenly in the middle of the lesson. At the same time, they played a recording of adult Rakari making territorial rage sounds. It was the sound of full-grown hunters ready to kill anything in their path. The room went dark. The terrible sounds filled the air. The cubs waited in the shadows, their eyes glowing like small fires. Yuna reached into her pocket and took out a small light. She turned it on calmly, and looked around the room. The cubs froze, caught in the beam of her little flashlight. "Oh, this is interesting," Una said. She listened to the recording for a moment. "That audio quality is really impressive. Where did you get it? It sounds very real." She walked to the light controls and turned them back on. Then she smiled at the class like nothing had happened. "Since we are talking about light and darkness, let me tell you about creatures on Earth that live in places with no light at all. They are called deep-sea fish. Some of them make their own light. Would you like to learn how?" The cubs sat in their seats, feeling confused and frustrated. On the third day, they tried something more direct. During the break time, Duri gathered 6 of the strongest cubs. They waited in the corridor for Una to walk by. When she came, they surrounded her in a tight circle. They growled deep in their throats. They showed their teeth. They snapped their jaws just centimeters from her face. Any other creature would have collapsed in fear. Una stood perfectly still. She looked at each of them with calm eyes. Then she reached up toward Duri's head. "Hold still," she said softly. Before he could react, she scratched the spot behind his ear ridge. It was a place where all Verkari were sensitive. When touched the right way, it felt very good. Duri made a sound. A low, rumbling sound that came from his chest. It was the sound of contentment. The sound of pleasure. The sound that cubs make when their mothers groom them. He was purring. His eyes went wide with horror. He jumped backward, his face burning with shame. The other cubs stared at him with open mouths. "Interesting," Una said calmly. "The book said that spot was sensitive, but I did not know if it would work the same on young ones." She walked away down the corridor, leaving 6 shocked cubs behind her. Duri did not speak to anyone for the rest of the day. On the 4th day, the cubs brought a special weapon. There was a creature on the station called a Vrix. It was like a spider but much larger, about the size of a dinner plate. It had 8 legs and many eyes and made a clicking sound when it moved. Almost every species in the galaxy was afraid of creatures like this. It was a deep fear, built into their brains from millions of years of evolution. The cubs put a Vrix in Una's desk drawer. Then they waited. Una came into the room. She put down her bag. She opened the drawer. The Vrix jumped out onto her arm. Una gasped. The cubs leaned forward, ready to see her scream and throw the creature away. But the gasp was not fear. It was delight. "Oh, hello there," Una said to the Vrix. "Aren't you beautiful?" She let the creature crawl up her arm to her shoulder. She petted its back gently. She made soft sounds to calm it down. "Look at those eyes," she said to the class. "It has 8 of them, just like spiders on Earth. Did you know that on my planet, we have spiders in almost every environment? Some live in deserts. Some live in caves. Some even live underwater." She spent the next hour talking about spiders while the Vrix sat on her shoulder. Several cubs had to leave the room. They said they felt sick, but really, they just could not watch anymore. By the 5th day, the cubs were desperate. They tried the darkness trick again, but this time, they hid themselves around the room. When the lights went out, they stayed perfectly silent. They planned to jump out at her from all sides. The lights went dark. The cubs waited. Then they heard Una's voice. It was calm and quiet, but something about it made their scales prickle. "You know," she said, "human eyes can see in the dark if we give them time. Our ancestors lived long ago when there was no electricity. They learned to see in shadows. They learned to move quietly. They learned to hunt in the night." Her voice seemed to come from different places. The cubs could not tell where she was. "Did you know that humans are called persistence predators?" She continued. "We do not have claws like you. We do not have fangs or scales. But we had something else. We could walk, and walk, and walk. For hours. For days. Forever. Soft footsteps sounded close to Soman. She spun around but saw nothing. Our ancestors would find an animal and start following it. The animal would run away. But when it stopped to rest and looked back, Yuna paused. Her voice dropped lower. The human was still coming. Always coming. Never stopping. Never giving up. Jinyu felt breath on the back of his neck. He jumped and yelped. The animal would run again. It would get tired. But the human would not stop. Eventually, after hours or days, the animal would collapse from exhaustion. And the human would finally catch up. The lights flickered back on. Yuna was standing directly behind Dory. She was close enough to touch his shoulder. No one had heard her move. No one had seen her coming. She smiled pleasantly. Shall we continue today's lesson? Dory's two hearts were beating so fast he could hear them in his ears. For the first time since he was a tiny cub, he felt something cold crawling up his spine. It was not quite fear, but it was close. He looked at this small, soft human with new eyes. She had no claws. She had no fangs. But there was something in her eyes that he recognized. The look of a predator. How did you do that? He whispered. "Yun." A just smiled. Humans have survived on Earth for a very long time, she said. We had to learn many tricks. Now, who wants to learn about how humans tamed wolves? The cubs did not try to scare her anymore after that day. They had learned an important lesson. Just because something looks soft and harmless does not mean it is weak. Sometimes, the most dangerous creatures are the ones that do not look dangerous at all. 3 days passed on the station. Yuna taught her classes like normal. She talked about planets and stars. She showed pictures of strange animals from different worlds. The cubs listened, but they were not really paying attention to the lessons. They were watching her, studying her, looking for the right moment to strike. Dory had called a meeting in the recreation room the night before. All 12 cubs had gathered there after dinner time. They sat in a circle on the floor, their eyes glowing in the dim light. We have waited long enough, Dory said. Tomorrow, we hunt. Hannah bounced with excitement. What is the plan? Do we use the darkness trick? The cornering move? The shadow stalk? We use everything, Dory replied. We start slow. First, Hannah will practice the stalking walk behind her. She will get close without making any sound. Then Jinyu and Miru will move to the door. They will cut off her escape. The twins nodded together. They were very good at working as a team. And then? Soman asked. She was sitting in the back, looking bored as always. Then I will give the signal. We all do the hunting cry together. Full power. The sound that freezes prey in their tracks. Dory showed his teeth. No creature in the galaxy can hear that sound and not feel fear. It is in their blood. It is in their bones. The other cubs made sounds of agreement. The hunting cry was their greatest weapon. It was a scream that their ancestors had developed over millions of years. It mixed high sounds that hurt the ears with low sounds that shook the chest. When a Vakari hunting pack used this cry together, even large animals would freeze in terror. She will scream, Jinyu said. She will cry, Miru added. She will run, Dory finished. And then we will have one. The next morning, Yuna walked into the classroom with her usual smile. She did not notice anything different. The cubs were in their seats, quiet and still. That should have been her first warning. They were never quiet and still. Good morning, everyone, Yuna said. She turned on the display screen and started her lesson. Today, she was teaching about different types of planets. Some were made of rock, like Earth. Some were made of gas, like Jupiter. Some were covered entirely in water. As she talked, Hannah slipped out of her seat. She moved slowly, carefully. Each step was silent. Her weight shifted from one foot to the other with perfect balance. This was the stalking walk that Vakari cubs learned before they could even speak. It was the walk of a hunter who did not want to be seen. Yuna continued teaching. She did not turn around. She pointed at the screen and explained how water planets formed. Hana got closer. She was now only 3 meters behind a human. Then 2 meters. Then 1. She could reach out and touch her if she wanted. Her heart beat fast with excitement. This was almost too easy. At the same time, Jinu and Miru moved to the door. They did it slowly, pretending to stretch and walk around. But soon they were standing in front of the only exit. Their eyes met Dory's across the room. They nodded once. Everything was in place. Dory took a deep breath. He opened his mouth wide, showing all of his sharp teeth. And then he screamed. The hunting cry exploded from his throat. It was a terrible sound, like metal breaking and thunder crashing and animals dying all at once. The other cubs joined in immediately. 12 young voices combined into one massive wall of sound that filled the entire room. Hana jumped forward with her claws out. She did not plan to hurt the human. She would stop before touching her. But the sudden movement from behind, combined with the hunting cry, should be enough to make anyone scream in terror. Yuna spun around, and she laughed. It was not a nervous laugh. It was not a scared laugh. It was a real happy laugh that came from deep in her belly. Her eyes crinkled at the corners. Her shoulders shook with joy. She actually clapped her hands together like she had just seen something wonderful. "Oh, that was good," she said, still laughing. "Do that again." "Dory, was that you who started it? The way you layered those sounds together was amazing. Is that something all Vakari can do? Or is it special to certain families?" The hunting cry died in the cubs' throats. They stared at her with wide eyes. This was wrong. This was very, very wrong. Prey was supposed to freeze. Prey was supposed to run. Prey was supposed to make sounds of fear and pain. Prey was not supposed to laugh and ask questions. Yuna walked toward Dory. She was still smiling. She moved with calm steps, like she was walking through a garden, not a room full of predators. "And Miru, Jinu, I saw you two blocking the door. That was smart thinking. Very strategic." She turned to look at Hana. "And you. The way you moved without making any sound. I have read about the Vakari stalking walk, but seeing it in real life is something else. You are very talented." Hana's claws were still out. She had forgotten to put them away. She looked down at them, then back at the human. You are not scared?" "Scared?" Yuna tilted her head like she was confused by the question. "Why would I be scared? You were not really gonna hurt me. How do you know that?" Dory demanded. His voice came out weaker than he wanted. "Many reasons," Yuna said. She counted on her fingers as she spoke. "First, your claws were out but not in attack position. They were in play position. Second, your eyes were excited, not angry. I can tell the difference now. Third, you are children." She smiled gently. "Amazing predator children, yes. But still children. Children play. They test. They learn. That is the same on every planet I have ever visited." She walked back to the front of the room like nothing had happened. "On Earth, we have a saying. All cubs play hunt. It is how young animals learn to become adults. Your hunting cry was very impressive. The way the sounds mixed together must take years to master." Dory did not know what to say. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Soman, who had been watching everything from the back, spoke up. "You really felt no fear?" "Nothing at all." Yuna thought about it for a moment. "I felt surprised," she admitted. "And excited. I have never heard a Vakari hunting cry in person before. It was She searched for the right word, beautiful, in a scary way. Like a lightning storm or a big wave in the ocean. Beautiful? Hana repeated. She sounded lost. Yes, Yuna nodded. The most dangerous things are often the most beautiful. Do you not think so? The cubs did not answer. They were too confused. Their whole plan had failed. Not because the human had been stronger or faster or smarter, but because she had simply not been afraid. Yuna picked up her teaching stick and pointed at the screen again. Now, where were we? Yes, water planets. Did you know that on Earth, our oceans are home to creatures even larger than adult Vracari? They are called whales. They sing to each other across thousands of kilometers. Would you like to hear what they sound like? She played a recording. A long, low sound filled the room. It rose and fell like a sad song. The cubs listened. They did not try any more tricks that day. They were too busy thinking about what had just happened. After class, Duri stayed behind. He waited until the other cubs had left, then walked up to Yuna's desk. "Why are you not afraid of us?" he asked. It was not a threat. It was a real question. Yuna looked at him kindly. "Because I understand you," she said. "And things we understand are rarely as scary as we think." Duri did not know how to respond to that. So he just turned and walked away. But he could not stop thinking about her words. And for the first time in his life, he wondered if maybe there was more to learn from this human than he had thought. After the darkness incident, everything changed. The cubs stopped trying to frighten Yuna. There was no point anymore. They had used every trick they knew, and none of them had worked. But something unexpected happened instead. They became curious. For the first time, the cubs wanted to understand this strange human creature. How had she stayed so calm? How had she moved so quietly in the dark? What was Earth really like, and what other secrets did humans have? Hana was the first to ask questions openly. One morning, before class started, she walked up to Yuna's desk and stood there with her arms crossed. "Show us your teeth," she demanded. Yuna raised an eyebrow but did not seem offended. She pulled back her lips and showed her teeth. They were small and flat, with only tiny pointed teeth on the sides. Hana stared for a long moment. "Those are pathetic," she said finally. "How did your species ever eat meat with teeth like that?" "Good question," Yuna replied. She walked to the display screen and pulled up a picture. It showed an ancient human holding a sharp rock. "We use tools. These are called stone knives. We cut our meat into small pieces before eating it." "That seems like a lot of work," Gino said from his seat. "It was, but it gave us an advantage." Yuna touched her head. "Because we spent less energy on chewing and digesting, our brains could grow bigger. We became smarter. We invented better tools. And eventually, we invented cooking." "Cooking?" Miru asked. "What is that?" "Using fire to prepare food. It makes meat softer and easier to digest. It also kills tiny creatures in the food that could make us sick." Yuna smiled. "We changed our food instead of changing our bodies." "Very human, yes?" The cubs thought about this. It was a strange way to survive. But they had to admit it was clever. Duri raised his hand. He'd been very quiet since the night Yuna had appeared behind him in the dark. He was still thinking about what she had said about persistence hunters. "You said humans followed animals until they collapsed," he said. "Is that true?" "It sounds impossible." "It is completely true." Yuna pulled up another picture. It showed a human running across a flat, dry land. This is called persistence hunting. Humans are not fast compared to most animals. But we have two special abilities. First, we sweat. "You what?" Someone asked. "Sweat. Water comes out of our skin when we get hot. It helps cool our bodies." Yuna touched her forehead. Most animals cannot do this. They have to stop running to pant and cool down. But humans can keep moving while cooling down at the same time. That is disgusting, Hana said. Maybe, but it is very useful. Yuna continued. The second ability is that humans can track. We follow footprints, broken plants, any sign that an animal has passed. We never lose our prey, and we never stop following. She looked around the room at the young predators watching her. Now imagine you are an animal being hunted by a human. You run away fast. You think you are safe. You rest. Then you look back, and the human is still coming. Not running, just walking. Steady, patient. You run again. You rest again. You look back. The human is still coming. Always coming. The room was very quiet. Eventually, after hours, you cannot run anymore. You are too tired, too hot. And the human finally catches up. Still fresh. Still ready. Yuna's voice was soft. That is how our ancestors hunted. Not with speed or strength. With patience and determination. Dory felt that cold feeling in his spine again. He had always thought of humans as weak because they had no natural weapons. But now he understood something. Humans did not need claws because they had something else. Something that might be even more dangerous. They never, ever gave up. Tell us about wolves, someone said. She leaned forward in her seat, interested for the first time since Yuna had arrived. Yuna smiled. This was one of her favorite topics. She pulled up a picture of a wolf. It was a four-legged animal with thick fur, sharp teeth, and intelligent eyes. Wolves were one of the most dangerous predators on Earth, Yuna explained. They hunted in packs, just like the Vakari. They worked together. They were smart and fast and deadly. Were? Jinu noticed the past tense. Did humans kill them all? No, we did something stranger. Yuna's smile grew wider. We made friends with them. The cubs looked at each other in confusion. Long ago, some wolves started following human camps. They ate the leftover food that humans threw away. Humans noticed that the wolves would bark when danger came. It was like having a free alarm system. Yuna pulled up a new picture. This one showed a human and a wolf sitting together. Over many, many years, humans and wolves learned to trust each other. They hunted together. They protected each other. They became partners. But wolves were predators, Hana said slowly. You said they were dangerous. They were. But humans saw past that. We saw that we had things in common. We both lived in groups. We both took care of our young. We both understood loyalty and teamwork. Yuna looked directly at Duri. We recognized each other as fellow hunters. She pulled up one more picture. This one showed a small, fluffy dog being petted by a human child. Today, we call the descendants of those wolves dogs. They live in our homes. They are part of our families. They are our friends. She paused. The predators that once hunted our ancestors now sleep at the feet of our children. The classroom was silent for a long moment. Humans are very strange, someone said finally. But she did not sound disgusted. She sounded impressed. We are, Yuna agreed cheerfully. We form bonds with almost anything. Other humans, of course, but also animals, plants, even machines. Once we decide that something is part of our pack, we protect it with everything we have. Duri thought about this. Your pack. How do you decide who is in it? Yuna looked at him with warm eyes. We choose. Anyone can be pack if we care about them. It is not about species or blood. It is about love. Could aliens be in your pack? Hana asked quietly. Of course. Yuna smiled at her. In fact, I think I'm already starting to add some new members. Hana's eyes went wide. You mean us? I mean you. All of you. Yuna looked around the room at her students. You are my cubs now, whether you like it or not. Dory did not know what to say. No teacher had ever said anything like that to them before. Most teachers could not wait to leave. Most teachers saw them as problems to be managed, not young ones to be cared for. But Yuna was different. I have an idea, Yuna said. The station is having a cultural exchange event soon. Different species will share presentations about their worlds. What if we work together on something? You can teach me about Vakari hunting, and I can teach you about Earth predators. We can show everyone that we have learned from each other. The cubs looked at each other. Working together with a human? Helping her instead of scaring her. It was a strange idea, but also somehow an exciting one. Will there be more creatures like the ones that walked before us? Dory asked. He was thinking of the persistence hunters, of the wolves, of all the strange and dangerous things that lived on Earth. Oh yes, Yuna said. Her eyes sparkled with that look the cubs were starting to recognize. The look that meant something interesting was coming. Wait until you learn about the dinosaurs, and the saber-toothed cats, and the megalodon, a shark so big it could swallow a small ship. What is a shark? Miru asked. Yuna grinned. It is basically a swimming mouth full of teeth. You will love it. For the first time since she had arrived, the cubs felt something new toward their human teacher. It was not fear. It was not confusion. It was something warmer. It was respect. The day of the cultural exchange arrived. The station's observation deck was the largest room on the whole station. Great windows looked out into space, showing thousands of stars against the endless darkness. Today, the room was filled with creatures from many different worlds. There were tall Vakari with their glowing eyes. There were small, quick beings from water planets. There were floating creatures made mostly of gas. And there was a small group of humans who had traveled from Earth just for this event. Commander Talon sat in the front row. He had been watching Yuna for 3 months now. He had expected her to fail like all the others. Instead, she had done something no one thought possible. The cubs actually liked her. They listened to her. They respected her. Talon did not understand how she had done it, but he was very curious to see what would happen today. Bora sat next to him, her scarred face showing no expression. The cubs have been working hard on this presentation, she said quietly. They have not caused any trouble in weeks. I noticed, Talon replied. It is unusual. Should we be worried? Talon thought about it. No, he said finally. I think we should be impressed. The lights in the room dimmed. A spotlight appeared on the small stage at the front, and Dory walked down into the light. He was nervous. Everyone could see it. His claws kept extending and retracting. His tail twitched behind him. But his voice was steady when he spoke. Good evening, he said. We are the students of Instructor Yuna. We are here to tell you about predators. The audience murmured with interest. This was not what they had expected. Dory continued. For a long time, we thought we knew what a predator was. We thought predators had to be big, strong, scary. We thought predators needed claws and fangs and powerful bodies. He paused and looked at Yuna, who was sitting with the other students near the stage. We were wrong. Hannah came out next. She had a pointer and used it to show pictures on the big screen. This is how Vakari hunt, she said, showing images of adult Vakari stalking through forests. We are quiet and fast. We work together as a pack. We use our hunting cry to freeze our prey in fear. She changed the picture to show a group of wolves on Earth. Humans had similar hunters on their planet. These are called wolves. They also work in packs. They also use sounds to scare their prey. She paused. Millions of years ago, these wolves and humans were enemies. They fought over the same food. But then something strange happened. Jinnu and Miru took over. They walked out together and spoke in turns. Humans did not try to kill all the wolves, Jinnu said. Instead, they made friends with them, Miru added. They saw that wolves were smart and loyal. They saw that wolves could help them hunt, so they shared food with the wolves. And over time, the wolves started to live with humans. Together. They said, the predators became partners. The audience was very quiet now. This was an unusual lesson for children to teach. Someone came out next. She had always acted bored and uninterested, but today she stood tall and spoke clearly. We studied fear, she said. Every species has things they are afraid of. Dark places, loud sounds, creatures with too many legs. She showed a picture of the Vrix. Several members of the audience made sounds of disgust. Humans have these fears too, but they also have something else. Somin looked directly at the audience. They can choose to ignore their fear. They can look at something scary and decide not to run away. She pulled up data on the screen, brain scans and scientific charts. When humans feel fear, their brains give them three choices. Fight, run, or... She paused for effect. Laugh. Laugh? Someone in the audience asked. Yes, some humans, when they see something frightening, start to laugh. It is a signal to their pack that the danger is not real. It is a way to control their fear instead of letting fear control them. Somin looked at Yuna. Our instructor taught us this. She laughed at us when we tried to scare her. Not because she was disrespecting us, but because she knew we would not really hurt her. She saw through our game immediately. Now it was Yuna's turn. She stood up and walked to the stage, standing beside her students. Thank you, Somin, she said warmly. She turned to face the audience. I have been teaching here for 3 months. When I arrived, these young ones tried very hard to frighten me. Light laughter rippled through the audience. Many of them had heard the stories. They used every trick they knew. Hunting cries, ambush, creatures with many legs. Yuna smiled. They are very creative and very talented. Any other teacher would have run away. Why did you not run? Talon asked from the front row. Yuna considered the question carefully. Because I understood them, she said. I saw 12 young hunters testing their skills. I saw curious minds wanting to learn. I saw children who needed someone to see past their scales and claws and find the people underneath. She looked at her students with obvious affection. On Earth, we have a tradition. When we meet a new creature, we try to understand it first. We ask questions. We watch carefully. We learn. She paused. Humans are very good at learning. It is how we survived when so many bigger, stronger species did not. Dory stepped forward again for the final part of the presentation. Our instructor asked us a question once, he said. She asked what makes a real predator. We said claws and fangs and hunting skills. She said we were wrong. He looked at Yuna, and she nodded for him to continue. A real predator, Dory said slowly, is not the one with the biggest teeth. A real predator is the one who never gives up. The one who keeps coming no matter what. The one who looks at fear and refuses to stop. He stood taller, his amber eyes glowing with new understanding. Humans do not look like predators. They are small and soft. They have no natural weapons. But they conquered their entire planet. They traveled to the stars. They made friends with wolves and tamed fire and built machines that think. His voice dropped lower, filled with respect. Instructor Yuna was never afraid of us because she already understood us. We were not threats to her. We were... He struggled for the right word. Cubs, Yuna said gently. Cubs, Duri agreed. And humans protect cubs. Even scary ones. Even ones who try to frighten them. because that is what humans do. They adopt creatures into their pack and then never let them go. The presentation ended. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the audience began to clap. First the humans, then other species, and finally, even the Vakari adults. It was not the polite clapping of formal events. It was real applause, the kind that meant the audience had truly been moved. After the event, Commander Talon approached Yuna. The cubs were celebrating nearby, eating sweet treats they had been promised as a reward. "You have done something remarkable," Talon said. His deep voice was quieter than usual. "No teacher has ever earned their respect like this." Yuna watched Hana trying to share her food with the human visitors. They looked nervous, but politely accepted. "I did not do anything special," Yuna said. "I just treated them like people. That is all anyone really wants, yes? To be seen for who they really are. Will you stay?" Talon asked. "Your contract ends soon." Yuna looked at her students. Duri was explaining his presentation to anyone who would listen. The twins were arguing about which Earth predator was the most impressive. Someone was quietly drawing a picture, a T-Rex with a Vakari riding on its back. "I will stay," Yuna said. "Why?" "Because they are my cubs now." She smiled. "And I have much more to teach them. They still do not know about honey badgers." Talon did not know what a honey badger was, but something in Yuna's voice made him think he probably did not want to find out. As the celebration continued, Duri came over to where Yuna was standing. He looked at her for a long moment. "Thank you," he said finally. It was the first time he had ever thanked a teacher for anything. For what? For not running away. He paused. For seeing us. Yuna reached out and gently touched the spot behind his ear ridge. This time, he did not pull away. He made that small purring sound again, but he was no longer embarrassed by it. "Thank you for letting me stay," Yuna said. Duri nodded once. Then he ran off to join his friends, his tail swinging happily behind him. Yuna watched him go. She thought about how far they had all come in 3 months. The cubs had started as wild hunters trying to scare her away. Now they were young students eager to learn, and she had started as a stranger. Now she was Pack. The stars continued to shine outside the observation deck windows. The galaxy was vast and full of different species, different ways of living, different kinds of strength. But tonight, in this one small station, humans and Vakari had found something special. They had found each other, and that, Yuna thought, was the most human thing of all.